I think one of my big preoccupations and the thing that was really worrying me in the earlier days of the pandemic, or when we were really in the thick of it, was that would this mean if you combine this with these new technologies that we're speaking on now, this kind of Zoom,
Exactly.
etc. Would this mean really, the complete rise of remote work? That this would spell in some way the end of cities? That people you didn't anymore need to have 9 to 5 jobs in city centers and commute into a city and then commute out in the evening. So were we entering really a massive new paradigm?
Yep.
And I think, and look, it's true that, I mean, I have friends in New York who've permanently left New York City and moved up to upstate New York, etc. But I think what we're seeing now is the city is people want to be in cities,
Yep.
and so I think the death of the city is very exaggerated. So I think
Yep.
we're seeing cities come back. I think we're clearly, I hope, entering exiting the pandemic now. Property values are rising everywhere. Rents are rising. New restaurants, etc. People want to be together. So I think
Exactly.
the my worry is that the pandemic would somehow usher in this new age of dispersed work and 100% remote work. I think that's
Yep.
overblown
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
exaggerated, which is good.
And a lot of things that, I mean, for mobility that came out of the whole COVID pandemic are the investments in road infrastructure, cycle lanes, permanent measures to improve the livability of cities, especially in Europe. That
Yeah.
was a positive thing.
Well, but now in the United States with the Biden
Also in New
administration, we
York.
have Build Back Better, which is the American version of that, which is long overdue. So there's massive infrastructure spending in the works here in the United States,
Yeah,
which is super important. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I mean, we talked about different things in mobility. We talked about CoMotion LA, but there's no way we can have a podcast about mobility without discussing the partnership that is needed between the different mobility modes. Um,
ah,
you need to have public transport. You need to have trams. You need to have buses.
of course,
You need to have even cars. You need to have
yeah,
bike share. You need to allow people to safely walk if they want to walk to the store. You need to allow scooter sharing. So there
yeah.
needs to be a balance between the different mobility options. But how do we find the balance?
Well, I
I
think
mean,
that's absolutely true. I mean, I think we're big supporters of public transportation. It's absolutely
exactly. Yeah,
necessary.
they have a lot of
But
impact and value.
but what transit cannot do is assure efficient last mile connections. So when you get out of the metro station in your neighborhood, how do you go the 10 blocks to your house, for example? That's the private sector needs to play a role there. So I think the really smart cities understand that, and those sort of
Exactly.
last mile connections are provided by micromobility, active mobility, you know, areas that you can walk in safely, so it impacts the design of a city and the built environment, etc. So that's really important. So I think, look, again, this goes back to very collaborative relationship between public and private, and it's still to be worked out. It's a process,
Exactly.
but I think that's the way we're going to go for sure. And I was in Paris just a few days ago, and there's micromobility options everywhere.
Yeah, Paris is
Yeah,
doing a great job. The way they kind of like regulate their urban space and allow different micromobility operators. But I'm not sure if that's for the whole Paris or if it's just the center.
yeah, that's an issue. It is largely for the center, and if you look at If you look at Mayor Hidalgo and the kind of innovations
Amazing. Yeah.
she's doing in the city, closing off big thoroughfares to traffic, etc. That's great if you live in Paris. Most people live outside of Paris and have to commute in. That increases those commuter times. It's not easy. It's more complicated than it seems, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the mobility issue is a part of a bigger societal issue, right? You need to think bigger, and you need to have a balance and work together between different partners, different the urban developers, because you need to think about the urban space and so on as well, because the cities are ultimately for the people. So the people needs to be taken into account when you think about solving the solution, right? Which makes sense. I always end early days of micromobility podcast by asking the question, what do you think the industry will evolve to in the next 6 months? Yeah.
6 months, that's a kind of short time. I'm not sure. 6 months that's really too short for
okay.
For me to think a bit.
Let's say 1 year.
I think a little bit further out. I think really what's one of the interesting trends that we didn't really anticipate 5 years ago when we started CoMotion is what's happening in the third dimension of space is air mobility. And is advanced air mobility, and these new technologies of electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft.
Okay.
So I think, going out a few years, the way one of the modes of, let's say, moving around Los Angeles will be in the air as opposed to the land. So it adds another mode to the multimodal options. And I think that's really, really positive.
Yeah.
So, that's a whole fascinating kind of sector that we're starting to really focus on. And it's very, very exciting.
Yeah, that's definitely exciting. It's exciting to see the innovative solutions.
Drone deliveries, things like that.
That's already happening, right? With medicine and so on.
Yeah. It's only medicine, but in the future, for example, if you look at...
what about the robo-deliveries? I think Amazon was also...
Robo-deliveries, for example, here in Santa Monica in Los Angeles, you see them on the sidewalks now. I mean,
really?
These... robotic little boxes that move around, and
wow, yeah, I thought they were only in Black Mirror episodes, and I didn't know they were.
No, it's happening now. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, John, I want to thank you, CoMotion LA, the whole team, everything you contribute to the industry and also to the public sector. Your overall added value is amazing. You do a lot of great things for our industry, and you definitely played a role and will play a role in the ultimate solution for mobility. So thank you so much for all that you do. And
thank you, Constantine, for all that you do also. So
I'm looking forward to have Smooth City and the Smooth City team in Miami and meet the CoMotion team and the other pioneers as well. So looking forward to that.
Great.
Thank you so much for the invitation. And I was wondering, just a very last question. In terms of the future perspective of CoMotion, do you have any future plans of doing events in Europe as well?
We're actually looking at a few things in Europe and in the Middle East. One of the next sort of expansions we're planning is actually in Vancouver, in Canada, British Columbia. Which is a very innovative city, particularly in clean tech, electric, hydrogen technologies for mobility. So we're organizing a gathering there on June 29th. I'd love you to come, Constantine.
I would love to.
Which is very, very focused on the kind of investment side of mobility. I mean, bringing together venture capital groups, corporate venture capital, startups. We think Vancouver is a great place to have that conversation. There's a lot of innovation happening there. So that's a new gathering that we're architecting now.
And and I think Google. I read somewhere that Google was working on a future city in Canada, and I'm not sure if it was in Vancouver, but yeah,
that was in Toronto actually. It was Sidewalk Labs. Yeah.
I
had a lot of problems. Actually, so as you may know. So
for the Middle East, I think, I mean, I am just extremely excited because I was in Saudi Arabia, and I think I could feel the vibe and the excitement about clean mobility. So I think CoMotion,
it's amazing.
needs to go to Saudi Arabia. If you need any, connections, I mean, I would gladly want to, help, and because I think the people of Saudi Arabia really are extremely excited for. Because they look at Europe and America, and they see all these amazing new mobility solutions, and they want to have them as well. So,
not only that, but they're leading the way in certain, for example, in hydrogen technologies. I happen to be I'm on the advisory board of a very big project in Saudi Arabia called NEOM, which is it's a new city in the northwest Saudi Arabia. It's completely based on renewable hydrogen.
Oh, okay.
And so I mean that country and that region is moving very, very fast.
That's exciting, because when I was at the King Abdullah Financial District Smart City back in 2019 to provide, we did a pilot for scooters back then. But
interesting.
Back then, we were invited by the kingdom, and back then NEOM was already making headlines as a future. Futuristic smart city, and the videos that I saw, and the technology they were already talking about back then. I mean, I'm just excited to see to see the real thing live. So yeah.
Well, next time you should broadcast a segment from NEOM. That would be fun.
Definitely. All right. John, thank you so much for coming on the early days of micromobility. It's a big honor to have you.
Thank you so much, Constantine.
It makes sense that you were on the early days of micromobility podcast, because you were actually even before the early days of mobility podcast, because you started before the early days. Maybe I need to change the title. And thank you so much for your time.
Thanks. Keep up the good work, Constantine.
Thank you.
And see you in Miami.
Thank you so much. All right. Okay.
Take care.